The tragic life and end of the Sylvers is truly heartbreaking. Imagine a family of 10 siblings, all gifted with natural voices, emerging from a small house to conquer the Billboard charts with their brilliant songs of the 1970s. They were the Sylvers, hailed as the family of geniuses of soul and disco. But behind the glittering stage lights and the tunes that made the world dance, there was another truth, a persistent tragedy stretching from the peak of glory to the dark depths. The haunting question is, how did a family that had it all, fame, money, talent, fall apart in addiction, prison, and mysterious deaths? People still remember Boogie Fever, or Hotline resounding on the radio, but few know about the internal conflicts, unfair contracts, or even a shocking kidnapping that left wounds that never healed. Even more frightening, there were members who died at a very young age, without a tombstone, without a line of remembrance worthy of the contribution they once brought to music. And for those who are still alive, many have struggled with addiction, violence, or even the law, causing the dream of a perfect family to shatter into thousands of pieces. What makes the Sylvers' story even more tragic is the stark contrast. While the audience cheers in front of the stage, behind the scenes they silently face loneliness, betrayal, and even abandonment. It is this distance that turns a musical family into a collective tragedy. So what is the real reason? The pressure from the spotlight, the ruthless control of the managers, or the mistakes that they themselves cannot overcome. The tragic story of the Sylvers will make you realize that the spotlight is never enough to save a wounded soul. Do you think that if they didn't enter the harsh world of showbiz, the Sylvers could have kept the peace and happiness of a family once hailed as the prodigy family of disco? The Sylvers once stirred up Billboard with hits that made the whole world dance. But behind that halo was a series of tragedies that made anyone shudder. There were members who were kicked out of the group right when they were at the peak of their glory. There was a heartless manager who took 50% of their income, turning their musical dreams into a slave contract. And even more horrifying was the earth-shattering scandal: a girl in the group was kidnapped, injected with heroin, and almost killed. A memory that haunted her for life. The truth behind the spotlight is never as bright as the melodies they sing. The kids who were once expected to become musical icons ended up lost in addiction, prison, and forgotten deaths. So what pushed the Sylvers, a family united by music, into a collective Hollywood tragedy? This is not just the story of a band, but also a warning about the dark side of fame. In this video, we take you on a journey that is both glamorous and dark, as the truth about the Sylvers gradually comes to light. From their early days, conquering audiences with their clear voices, becoming a family band that rocked the Billboard with Boogie Fever and Hotline, until everything collapsed in tragedy, we will expose the untold stories. This is not just a musical memory, but a panoramic picture of a seemingly perfect family, but caught up in a whirlwind of fame, power, betrayal, and terrible crimes. You'll hear about bad decisions, unfair contracts, and scandals that shook the world. From members being kicked out of the group due to internal conflicts, to the shocking kidnapping of a female member who was injected with heroin and nearly died, all will be revealed. We'll also mention the tragedies behind the scenes: addiction, prison, poverty-stricken deaths, and rumors of betrayal by those closest to them. However, to make it clear, the following story is based on public information newspapers of the time and also allegations from insiders. Some details are still controversial, and we will analyze from multiple perspectives to give you a more objective view. This video is not meant to defame or judge anyone, but to make the audience understand that behind the bright lights of the stage there is a darkness that few dare to face. What you are about to hear may shock you, may dismay you, but it will definitely make you look at the Sylvers in a completely different light. To understand the tragedy of the Sylvers, we have to go back to the beginning, where it all began with their parents. In 1951, a Memphis musician named Leon Sylvers Sr. married Shirley May, a girl with a passion for music and dreams of becoming a teacher. The marriage quickly became the cradle of a large family. Every time Leon looked at Shirley, it seemed like another child was born. With the burden of making a living, Leon's dream of becoming an artist had to be put on hold. But then he had an idea: if he could not stand on stage, it would be his children who would fulfill that dream for him. In the late 1940s, he began training his eldest children into a singing group called the Little Angels. With rigorous training, they gradually developed unique harmonies, making their mark on small stages and even appearing on You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx, a turning point that brought the Sylvers family into the spotlight. As the 1970s rolled around, the Sylvers really exploded. They signed with MGM, then Capitol Records, and released a string of hits that captivated the world. Boogie Fever and Hotline became iconic, propelling them to the top on par with the biggest bands of the era. But that spotlight was also the beginning of a series of tragedies. While some members chose to live a quiet life, others fell into a downward spiral. In 1985, the first tragedy struck when Christopher, the youngest, died at the age of 18, causing much controversy. 2 decades later, in 2004, Edmund, the former lead singer, died of lung cancer in poverty without a gravestone. Each of Leon and Shirley's children becomes a piece of a picture that is both brilliant and tragic, a testament to the fragility between the stage light and the tragic darkness. Looking back at the Sylvers' entire journey, we see a timeline filled with dazzling peaks interspersed with unexpected tragic falls. 1940s-50s. It all began when Leon Sylvers Sr. and Shirley May raised a large family in Los Angeles. Leon, an aspiring musician, recognized the children's natural musical talent early on. Thus was born the Little Angels, the family's first children's singing group, laying the foundation for the legendary The Sylvers. 1960s. The Sylvers' name slowly appeared in the public eye when they were invited to appear on the famous show You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx. This event brought them attention and gradually paved the way for a professional recording contract. After years of hard work, the family signed a contract with Capitol Records, starting a big journey. 1975-77. This was the golden age for the Sylvers. Hits like Boogie Fever and Hotline topped the charts, making them one of the biggest house bands of the 1970s. Money, fame, and attention, all at once. It seemed like nothing could stop them. Late 1970s-80s. But behind the glory came cracks. Internal conflicts saw Leon, the eldest brother, the mainstay of songwriting and production, removed from control. A new manager, Al Ross, appeared and convinced the group to sign an unfavorable contract, taking up to 50% of their income. It was at this time that the signs of decline began to appear. 1985. The first tragedy strikes. Christopher Sylvers, the youngest of the family, dies at the age of 18. The official cause is hepatitis, but rumors of AIDS are rife, leaving his death shrouded in mystery. 2004. Another tragedy. Edmund Sylvers, lead vocalist, died of lung cancer at the age of 47. He died in poverty without even a proper tombstone. That timeline is not just about milestones, but also about the journey from Little Angel to collective tragedy, a testament to the fragility of fame. 2007 marked another shock, this time associated with the name that was expected to follow in Michael Jackson's footsteps: Foster Sylvers. As a child, Foster had conquered the audience with the song Misdemeanor, his voice so sweet that many people mistook him for the king of pop. But that halo did not last long. After the group disbanded and his solo career failed, Foster fell into a deadlock, got involved in drugs, and lost direction. And then the worst thing happened in 2007. He was accused of molesting a minor, a shocking scandal that plunged the Sylvers' name into darkness again. Foster reportedly sexually assaulted a child while in the same house. Although the specifics are disputed, the court still convicted him and he was sent to prison. For many viewers who loved the Sylvers, this was a huge breach of trust. One of the Little Angels of the past was now branded a criminal. The case not only tarnished Foster's reputation, but also added a layer of tragedy to the family. If the deaths of Christopher and Edmund had brought tears to the public, Foster's fall stirred anger and regret. What do you think caused a bright talent like Foster to fall so far that he lost everything? Was it the temptation of showbiz or the never-healed pain of a broken family? When it comes to the Sylvers, there are details that have been clearly confirmed by the press and music documents. But there are also many stories that only stop at the level of allegory, making their entire journey even more mysterious. In the verified section, it is undeniable that the group once reached the top. In 1976, the song Boogie Fever climbed straight to the #1 position on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming a glorious milestone for the Sylvers family. This achievement was recorded in many major music magazines, affirming that the group was once a phenomenon of disco music. Besides, another shocking fact is that in 2007, the press simultaneously reported that Foster Sylvers, the singer who was compared to Michael Jackson, was convicted of child molestation. Court records and news reports at that time confirmed the incident, turning it into one of the indelible stains in the history of this family. However, beyond the verified facts, there are many details that exist only as alleged. For example, there is a story about Olympia Sylvers being kidnapped, stabbed, injected with heroin, and almost murdered. Although this rumor was widely circulated in the community in the 1970s, there are no public police records to confirm it. Similarly, about Edmund Sylvers, many unofficial sources claim that he fathered between 11 and 15 children with different women, but this number has never been confirmed. Christopher Sylvers' death in 1985 also left much to be desired. Official documents listed the cause as hepatitis, but rumors suggested that he actually died of AIDS, and some even believed that Christopher was the illegitimate son of famous producer Dick Griffey, a theory that has no evidence to support. It is important that in this video, every detail mentioned will be accompanied by a clear distinction. What is verified truth? What is just word of mouth? Because only with such transparency can viewers understand correctly and have a fairer view of the tragic story of the Sylvers. To understand the tragedy of the Sylvers, it is necessary to look at the complex web of connections between the members and the connections that led their destinies down different paths. At the center of the story is Leon Sylvers Jr., the eldest brother who was considered the spiritual and musical leader of the group. He was a songwriter-producer, and Leon's hand in shaping their initial success. After being ousted from leadership, Leon turned to producing for Shalamar, achieving great success, a testament to the fact that he could shine outside the family circle. In contrast to Leon, Edmund Sylvers dreamed of becoming the next Michael Jackson. As the lead singer of many hits, Edmund believed that he could go solo and reach the top. But reality was cruel. His solo career never took off. Disappointment drove him away from his family, then drifted in poverty until he died of lung cancer in 2004 without a tombstone, without glory. Foster Sylvers, once a vocal prodigy with the song Misdemeanor, was compared to Michael Jackson when he was a child. But after the glory came the abyss addiction, unemployment, and finally a 2007 child molestation case, which made his name associated with prison instead of music. Olympia Sylvers, the girl who shocked the public with the story of being kidnapped, stabbed, and injected with heroin, from which her mental state collapsed and she fell into a cycle of addiction. The psychological darkness made Olympia never find peace again. Christopher Sylvers, the youngest, died at the age of 18 in 1985. His early death was marred by suspicions ranging from AIDS to rumors that he was the illegitimate son of producer Dick Griffey. Looking at it all, it is easy to see that the motives that connected these tragedies revolved around three pillars. Money, the Al Ross contract, took 50% fame. Edmund and Foster's solo ambitions, and power, the confrontation between Leon and the manager. It was this vortex that crushed a family once called the Little Angels of music. When looking back at the Sylvers' journey, it's important to note that not every detail is backed by hard evidence. There are events confirmed by the press and official records, but there are also pieces that exist only as rumors or hearsay. A typical example is the case involving Olympia Sylvers. The story of her kidnapping, Stabbing and heroin injection sounds extremely creepy, but to this day, there are no public police records to prove it. It could be true, or it could be the product of the collective imagination exaggerated over the years. Similarly, Christopher Sylvers' death in 1985 was confirmed to be due to hepatitis, but rumors that he died of AIDS persisted for decades. There is even a theory that Christopher was not Leon Sr.'s biological son, but the illegitimate son of producer Dick Griffey, a detail that has never been confirmed. Therefore, when recounting the tragedy of the Sylvers, it is necessary to distinguish between verified facts and mere suppositions. Otherwise, we will unintentionally overshadow their musical achievements, and instead remember only the darkness of scandal. Another point that needs to be debated is it true that the Sylvers did not completely self-destruct, but were they actually victims of the cruel showbiz system? In the music industry machine, many young bands are exploited by managers, signed unfair contracts, and are under enormous pressure from fame. The case of Al Ross taking 50% of the income is a clear example of financial manipulation. When combined with the pressure of youth, too much expectation, and lack of a mental support system, the fact that many members fall into addiction, violence, or despair is not necessarily due to their own weakness. In any tragic story, there will always be climaxes and twists that make the audience unable to take their eyes off. And with the Sylvers, those three turning points are like knives tearing apart the image of the angelic family that the public once admired. Twist 1. The story of Olympia Sylvers once shocked the public. Rumors say that when she was a teenager, she was kidnapped by 3 men, brutally attacked, stabbed, and injected with heroin in an attempt to kill her. But in the moment of life and death, Olympia mustered all her strength to jump out of the car and escape. That spectacular escape seemed like a miracle, but in fact, opened up a series of dark days she lived in obsession. Her mind was broken, and she eventually fell into a spiral of addiction. An angel once loved by the audience now lives in constant fear. Twist 2. If Olympia represents physical and mental pain, Foster Sylvers represents the most terrible moral fall. The boy who sang Misdemeanor so sweetly that many people mistook him for Michael Jackson grew up and fell into drug addiction. The climax was in 2007. Foster was convicted of child molestation. The man who was once considered the future of the Sylvers is now remembered with a prison sentence and a stain that will never be washed away. A bitter twist that no one ever thought would happen. Twist 3. And then there was Christopher Sylvers, the youngest of the family. In 1985, at the age of 18, Christopher died under mysterious circumstances. The paperwork said hepatitis, but the public was abuzz with AIDS. Not stopping there were also rumors that he was not Leon Sr.'s biological son, but the product of an extramarital affair between Shirley and producer Dick Griffey. The truth of the matter remains unclear, but Christopher's early death added another layer of tragedy to the family's history. Those 3 twists, escape, imprisonment, and mysterious death, not only create a dramatic climax, but also make the story of the Sylvers one of the most shocking family tragedies in American music history. Despite the endless tragedy, the Sylvers' musical legacy remains an indelible part of R&B and disco history. Songs like Boogie Fever and Hotline still resonate on nostalgic playlists, influencing artists of all stripes. Their unique harmonies have inspired countless family groups and young singers, proof that no matter how dark their personal lives, their art can transcend time. But the Sylvers' story never really ended. Today, with the public's growing interest in uncovering the truth behind the glamour, the possibility of new documents, memoirs, or exclusive interviews with surviving relatives is entirely possible. A book told from Leon Jr. This perspective or a documentary exploring the scandal would be both artistic and answer questions the public has never stopped asking. It could be an opportunity for the family to reclaim their voice and tell their own story without the distorting lens of the media or the rumors. The future of the Sylvers' legacy remains uncertain. Their music has resonated, but the truth about their lives may still have many layers to it. Details about Olympia, about Christopher, about the suffocating contracts with manager Al Ross, all could still be mined to help the public understand how a talented family came to such a point. Do you think there are still untold secrets about the Sylvers? Secrets that could change the way we look at this whole family? From the innocent little angels stepping onto the stage with their clear voices, the Sylvers reached the pinnacle of glory when they topped the Billboard with Boogie Fever and Hotline. They were once hailed as icons of 1970s disco music, bringing joy and energy to millions of audiences. But that journey quickly turned dark, unfair contracts, ruthless management control, internal conflicts, and a series of scandals dragged this musical family into the abyss. From Olympia with a spectacular escape, Edmund died poor without a tombstone. Christopher mysteriously passed away at the age of 18 to foster, a one-time prodigy but ended up in prison. All turned the Sylvers' story into an unforgettable tragedy. Behind the bright spotlight lies a cold truth. A family once called Little Angels ended up in a series of tragedies, leaving many unanswered questions. In your opinion, is the tragedy of the Sylvers the result of personal mistakes and self-destruction? Or is it the cruel entertainment machine that crushed this entire family? If you want to continue to explore the dark stories behind the Hollywood halo, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. We will be back with secrets, hidden truths that you definitely don't expect.